We hit 'em hard, we hit 'em fast. Beep, you know what to do. It's open!
You hear something?
Shut up. Take 'em. After our short visit to Black Desert City, we spend some time in the zone cleaning up iron spiders and looting whatever locations we can break into without losing our heads.
I used to have purpose. Now I simply mourn its end.
Holy shit, somebody take this guy's lunch money and shove him into a locker. Please. The only real thing of note occurs when Beep stealths past a handful of broken skeletons to steal loot from right under their noses. That 70 stealth score is really starting to show its worth. When the team is whole again, we get stuck into our usual routine, kicking dust bandit remnant asses and occasionally farming fogmen for fun and profit. The latter half of that equation is a fairly high-risk operation. It's pretty all or nothing when you're fighting an enemy that wants to eat you when the fighting is done. We pick our fights carefully and try to keep everyone in tip-top shape. We're camped out on the edge of the zone, resting up slightly before nightfall when a wounded Holy Nation outlaw wanders into our midst. Hey bud, feeling okay? He's not interested in squatting up with us, so we settle for patching him up, splinting his leg, and sending him on his way. Suit yourself, pal. Try not to run into any beak things. We're on our way home from our training session when Burns speaks up.
All this talk of the Bugmaster in this day and age, it never gets old.
Are you laughing at us? I can never tell with you.
Because skeletons laugh on the inside. We're too depressed to laugh on the outside.
Can't you just reset or something when you get too depressed?
Yes, but then we reset all of our skills, too.
Huh.
And that's how you end up with legends like Catlon. Forget the Bugmaster, Igor, Stone Golem, Ark. I know what you're about to say. Don't say it! They don't compare to Catlon. Why did you have to bring him up? Catlon is gone in history, and in history he should stay.
Who's Catlon? I can answer that question. There are a number of things in this game that incorporate the word cat into their name. The legendary smiths of the city of Katoon, the scattered northern settlements of Dead Cat. The coins accepted in every city we come across are called cats. Yeah, did you take it for granted that there's basically a universal currency across the entire continent? One of the many trends of history is that great conquerors often make their presence felt by getting their name and face on as many locations and statues as they possibly can. Just look up how many cities Alexander the Great named after himself or his buddies. Kenshi, largely being a game about history, isn't ignorant to this idea. The description for the actual item for cats, found somewhat rarely on certain characters, says that they're named after an old dictator. That dictator is, you guessed it, Catlon, the draconian ruler of the old Second Empire. A skeleton who wielded such sweeping power and reach that the entire continent once felt the fear of his iron-fisted rule. And to slightly bastardize a fitting quote, a dictator need not speak. When he is gone, the world will speak for him.
I don't think it actually says that, Dutch. I'm paraphrasing, you heathen.
Burns' concerning reverence for this guy and Sad Neil's desire to bury him are both extremely interesting to me. It's a timely moral quandary. How do you toe the line between matter-of-factly recording the deeds of somebody and inadvertently venerating them? There's this, really funny thing that news outlets do when somebody murders like 20 people before they're caught by the law, where they give them really catchy names. And go figure, some of those dudes ate that shit up. Hey, you can walk that one all the way back. Has anyone ever heard of Jack the Ripper? Why the fuck are you giving that guy a stage name like he's Prince? That's what he wants. Would you know about that guy at all had he not had a catchy name? And to return this back to the scale that Catlon was operating on, just look at the way some degenerates on the internet talk about that one disgruntled painter. We range west, past the Fog Islands and toward the further reaches of Dreg. We've got another exploration blind spot out this way to clean up. Some of our characters are still a bit injured after our previous run-in with the locals, so we leave them behind on a high bluff to rest up. This rise is a dead end, so hopefully no one stumbles into them while the capable fighters are gone. We were expecting more cannibals, seeing as we're inching our way north, but there's actually a village out this way. Lip saunters into the square and starts to chat up the first local he sees. The guy is really on edge and greets us with a little bit of suspicion. He cites frequent bandit raids as the reason for the hostility. Yeah, they are a bit isolated and are out of the way out here. I'm wiped out. I can barely afford to feed my family. But what can you do? Just suck it up and make do with the old sword and the old dog. Don't worry. You're safe while I'm around. I hope so. Thank you, Drifter. What is that impulse, Lip? Going a little soft on me, pal? That's not very characteristic of us. I guess we have sort of developed a habit of collecting strays. How tsundere of you. That's how you say it? Is that how you say it? That's how you say it, right? Interestingly, the villages out here are tied to the Dead Cat faction, the same cultural group that controls the fishing hamlet all the way on the northern coast. We haven't visited it yet, but this faction shares a name with the destroyed town in the Cannibal Lands, right about here. This suggests that the faction used to have a better grip in this corner of the map. There are also plenty of Second Empire ruins further to the northwest. They're actually fairly abundant up there. The name suggests that the faction was created sometime after the collapse of the Skeleton Empire and that these villagers are the descendants of the human citizens of those northern holdouts. Hence the name Dead Cat. Very clever. Then cannibals swept through the region in the ensuing period of strife and turned the, Dead Catters? Dead Catites? Dead Catees? Into refugees for a period of time. Here's a fun tidbit to close out this section on Dead Cat. Apparently, there's a finance turn of phrase called a Dead Cat Bounce. It's used to describe a period of brief recovery in the price of a declining asset, and is derived from the idea that even a dead cat will bounce if it falls from a great height. The phrase is also popularly applied to any case where the subject experiences a brief resurgence following a severe decline. So things will get better before they continue to get a lot worse. That tracks. This might not be groundbreaking to some finance people, but I'm a dirty creative type, so hey, it was news to me. Now, that was the classier of the two possible references. There's also, according to Wikipedia, another thing called dead catting, coined by Boris Johnson, which is basically a version of the Chewbacca defense, which is basically a version of a red herring, where you say some crazy shit to push media attention away from something you don't want people to pay attention to. So, what the fuck? I don't know. I'd buy the finance thing before the spitting image guy, but lo-fi is based in Britain, so take your pick.
Break out the green. I brought the parliamentary bong.
Everything surrounding Kenshi's plot is covered in no less than 2 layers of the sticky, acrid ooze of uncertainty, and that's just the way I like it. Thank you, sir. May I have another? At this point, I start to get the feeling that I want to push further north. We return to camp and pick up the wounded, and we chart out the area properly to mark all the settlements out here, as there turns out to be a good handful. There's even a far-flung hive village. This area wouldn't be so bad to set down roots in, come to think of it. Cozy. As we leave the relative comfort of Dreg, we push into the Shrieking Forest. Before long, we're seeing shrieking folk in numbers we haven't before. They just move around in large crowds like a liquid. We managed to pass through mainly untouched. No worries, Lip speaks the language. Once in a while, we'd see our squealing buddies squaring up with cannibal patrols. I'd love to intervene and try to make nice with these guys, but I think that would just turn these into a 3-way brawl. Kenshi can be like that sometimes. I'll rationalize that as being the fault of the communication barrier. Up ahead, the wind picks up. The sand here is, well, purple, thus the name. There's a whole lot of those landing craft out here. The area is fairly open and flat. I can see how you'd site this place out as an LZ. There's one of those hump-backed workshop structures ahead. I don't see anybody immediately hostile inside, so we take shelter. Post-ancient workshop, huh? What, were they scrapping the old ships for raw materials? The crew gets to work lockpicking the crates we can and cutting into the ones we can't. We've got a little time to kill here, so let's engage in some light thinkery while we wait. A while back, I put a giant pin in the question of where did this cannibal culture come from, and I think we're finally in a place to come back to it. I could understand that there was probably a famine or food shortage in the post-Second Empire collapse or post-ancient days, but would that really turn half the population into savages overnight? Like, okay, sure, there's not a lot of food going around, but once the dust settles and clearer heads return, did nobody figure out a way to stop subsisting on human meat? We'll learn later that it's more than likely been a handful of centuries since the Second Empire was a thing. That's a long time to continue butchering people and not figure out an alternative. There are all these ancient laboratories dotted across the map. A decent amount of time they coincide with the areas where beak things can be found. This doesn't even necessarily need to be a one-to-one overlap to mean something. Herd migrations occur. So maybe part of the ancients' genetic research involved pushing the human body as far as it could go. Some of the stable strains of humanity differ in how much food they need to eat. The Shek eat more than Scorchlanders after all. Alternatively, if this was a Second Empire operation, beak things seem like a crude terror tool. You can't run from them and they've got a big appetite. There's that scene from the movie Snatch where the villain subtly threatens a group of criminals by telling them that 16 starved pigs can eat a 200-pound body in 8 minutes. The caveat being that you have to shave the victim and pull out his teeth first. And of course, you have to catch and kill the guy. That's the pig method. It works. It can work.
But you don't want to go sieving through pig shit now, do you?
Or you could cut down on all the quantity and invest in a single beak thing. All this just to say that maybe the cannibals are escaped lab rats, like the De-Evolution of Man book suggests. This ties into another theory that I like. I can't remember if I encountered it first in a Reddit post or a wiki comment section, but someone once posited that the Shrieking Bandits are descendants of lab-grown clones. This works really well with the cannibal lab theory. It also explains why the Shrieking Bandits only vocalize in a series of barks and yells. Their ancestors might have been flash cloned and chemically matured extremely quickly without a proper life or education. After all, if you're maintaining a stable of stock for doing weirdo experiments on, you don't necessarily need to source them from the normal population. Why steal little Johnny from his house when you can spawn camp like 100 Johnnies directly from the Bacta tank or whatever? They're also located far away from any major civilization on the world map. If the Shrieking folk had more regular contact with traditional societies, maybe the issue would be revealed to be cultural. Additionally, the game actually makes a clear delineation, mechanically, between normal human characters and cannibals. The cannibals are technically a different category of entity altogether, in the same way that all the other races of the game are distinct from one another. Now, game mechanics don't always factor into my lore readings. I think this is largely to stop the player from being able to recruit cannibals via fringe methods like enslaving a character then buying their freedom. Other things, like the cannibal's resistance to acid, might just be so they can be naked and unafraid and still pose a credible threat. But one could read these as concrete genetic deviances from baseline humanity. We readily accept the abilities of Hivers, Shek, and Scorchlanders as lawful. Why shouldn't we accept this mechanical inference in the same fashion? This would also suggest that the Shrieking Bandits are properly human, while the Painted Tribes are a separate thing unto themselves. So the former would be the genetic offspring before any conditioning or torture or whatever, and the latter would be after all the funny haha break your brain stuff. I'm not sure it's solid canon to me, but I like the theory and it has more than a shred of legitimacy. We do some light re-gearing and hand-me-downing, stow the valuables, and head further west. The purple sands start to turn red, and eventually we have to put down some biters. Not an issue. We were trained and equipped enough at this point to hold our own against these guys in an even fight. Oh, no, shit. Oh, guys, we're cool! Shriek eek! Fuck. Oh, a goddamn communication barrier. I knew I should have taken the Shrieking tongue in high school instead of French. People always said it had more practical use, but did I listen? No! Oh, I sincerely hope they wake up before the cannibals do. You know what? This place sucks. Let's bug out of here. Before we go, I'll do my duty and poke my head into this last bit of coast to the west. Whoa, good bit of junk out here. Is this rust? I thought those big rings were bones, which they still could be, but they could also be rust-eaten iron whatevers. Berserker country, huh? Sure, I can see how they'd like it here. What with the not blood pools and the red sand. It fits their aesthetic. Hey, that white sand that's all over the place reminds me of my old job. Galvanized steel can produce this white rust. It's from the zinc coating on the outside, at least that's what Google says. It gets turned into dust from prolonged contact with water, and sometimes you'd see it all over improperly insulated ductwork. I was good at my job. I'm not sure if you'd see the same kind of effect if the metal was so heavily oxidized, but what the hell. They can take some creative liberties so I can read too far into it. I know it's true because this game was made for me specifically. Chris Hunt told me so when he came into my dream last night and personally whispered it into my ear,
you stupid fuck.
We camp up on this bluff for the evening. Our group nap is almost interrupted by some berserkers, which could have been less than ideal. We break camp before dawn. On the way home, I shove all of our generator cores into Borland's ass. You gotta grow up big and strong, buddy, and this is the only way I know how to help you. We work our way across the floodlands to get back home, which prompts Burn to fire off that line of dialogue I was talking about in the last episode.
Back again. There's something so nostalgic about this place to me. I was born here. Planned to die here. Until you came along. I just can't stay in one place for too long. When this adventure ends, I'll return here.
That's a tad morbid, no? You should accept death too. It is inevitable. However, I will die as Krull did. Not old in some flooded shithole.
This shithole is my home.
Nice. I'm starting to see why skeletons hate all of us as a rule. Just classless. Come to think of it, the time span of our adventure probably won't take that long, all things considered. It's been 60 days to this point? So what? Our journeys will probably come to a close before a year, right? Less than 365 days? Unless that's not what a year is on this planet. Whatever, off topic. The point I was working towards was that for Burn and Sadneil, this might be the equivalent of a very dangerous night out of the town with some coworkers. They perceive time differently than humans do. For everyone else, they were either hired for cash, joined because it was beneficial, or were saved from certain death. These guys were kind of just like,
Yeah, sure, I got nothing better going on.
Unfortunately, and for the sake of convenience, we cut through Obedience on the way home. Look, it's mostly empty and fast to get across. That's a real bummer. Just close your eyes or disable your optical array or whatever. Google Maps says this route saves us like 5 minutes. I planned on stocking up on cats to fund our next couple endeavors, so we're going to run another trade caravan to the United Cities. The only problem is now that Sadneil and Burn are with the party, we can't use the easy road through the Holy Nation. There's another fairly common way to cross this divide, however. From the hub, you cross over Dust Bandit territory and Skinner's Roam to arrive at Smuggler's Bar. Ideally, you wait there until nightfall, then cross Venge once the lasers are done firing. There's a tech hunter outpost right on the edge of the danger zone, so you can rest up there if needs be, and voila, you have free access to the UC. I'm a little embarrassed to report that I only realized that is why it's called Smuggler's Bar at this exact moment of the playthrough. Yeah, the Swamp Gang members frequenting the place didn't tip me off. I even organically discovered the route on the Scratch playthrough and made use of it regularly. I guess because I always used it to run pearlware and not less than legal substances, it never clicked. My own mental deficiencies aside, we make a pit stop at home and get a move on. The Dust War is still on, so we end up getting into a couple scrapes on the way east. See, this is real choices and consequences gameplay. I've accidentally made this area actively worse for us to navigate. It's nice to see that we're leveled enough to compete with these bastards now. As we arrive at Smugglers, a squad in the distance decides to tango with a couple beak things. Not a great idea, but power to them. We're about to head inside when a patrol of Dust Lords stops us. Shit, parlez-vous français? Nous sommes des gens sympas et ne sommes pas des hommes à penis? Fuck, I butchered that.
Yes, all your stuff. And quit hogging all that food. Weapons, drop 'em now.
Burn the Dumb here has some pretty clear demands. Their party is fairly sizable, and we're still banged up from the hike out here. Borland does the talking.
Alright, let's just talk about this. Peacefully. We want your dosh, your food, your gear, everything. Okay, let's be civil about this. Maybe we can come to an agreement.
Alright, nice opening salvo, Borland. Not sure about the direction, but you can probably make this work.
No, give it up. I won't ask twice. Quit screwing around, vermin.
But I'm broke. I have no money.
Then tough shit. I'll have to strip the clothes from your back.
Damn it, Borland. We drag him towards the door, and every able-bodied guard in the bar jumps into action. This is a real brawl. These Dust Lords picked the wrong place and the wrong time to shake us down. It strikes me about now that the fight is winding down. Are we engaged in gang activity? Like getting into a standoff with a band of rogues over, let's call them material concerns, outside of a place called Smuggler's Bar, a well-known drug-running establishment? And this, after we just had to cross an area well, whatever. Aside from that, what the fuck was that noise? Oh, shit! See, beak things are scarier when your party is low level and you're not properly equipped to deal with them, like most things in the game. With the proper game knowledge, it's fairly easy to bring them down. Just space your crew out to avoid AoE damage from their attack and keep a crossbow on hand. Microing your dudes manually away from their strikes is also highly effective. That was our first beak thing kill. Just don't forget to pull at least one item out of their inventory to confirm the kill. You don't want to get surprised when the thing inevitably gets back up. Before the day is out, we kill our second and third beak thing and clean out the valuables from the Dust Lord's inventories. Yeah, look, those guys didn't do it right. When everyone is well enough to move again, we set off. Under the cover of night, we cross Venge.
The other one's still running here. Watch out for the sky.
Damn you, the other one.
The other what?
The other eye. We can't survive here for long. Have to move quickly.
Why do you guys ever explain anything properly? I've seen that dialogue before, but after the big skeleton lore dump, that punchline actually makes sense from Burns' perspective. Why the fuck would he explain it? Continuing on this line of questioning.
Oh man, I forgot that thing's still here. You can see it in the distance there. It's still chugging away even now. I remember when it was flying around, wreaking death and destruction everywhere it went. It's safe now, though. Good riddance to it.
This is something we already knew, but it's always good to cite your sources. Dot your I's and cross your T's. We move our goods to the fine merchants in Brink and even get to collect Burn the Dumb's cute little bounty. When Lip goes to check the inventory of the general store, he's interrupted by the local nobility. Lady Sugi demands we bow for forgiveness for staining her presence with our peasant ugliness. Our bodyguards are no joke, and we really don't want to run afoul of the Traders Guild or the UC at the moment, so comply. A clear embarrassment, but it's also unfortunately the cost of doing business. We grit our teeth, bear it, and quietly put some weight on the anti-slaver side of the scale. Just outside of Brink, we get a little consolation prize. We managed to snipe some beak thing eggs out of a vacant nest. Ooh, that is what we like to see. This would have been a much bigger challenge had anybody but a single juvenile been home. The return voyage takes us on the same route that we used to get here. There are some minor scrapes on the way, but we come out on top every time. I'll spare you guys the gritty details. No, don't skip yet. It's just my thing. Minor announcement, there is now a Discord for the $3 patrons. I'm planning on doing some streams in there, maybe some community game nights. I even floated the idea privately of doing a community Minecraft server. Currently, people in there are sharing baking tips. So, hey, if that sounds like your cup of tea, check out the Patreon. All right, that's it. Ad over. Back to our regularly scheduled programming. The Border Zone. The Dust Reaper occupied fort. It's day 69, nice, or DKD plus 22. There's a commotion. Some nomads are getting jumped just outside the gate. Under normal circumstances, this place would be unassailable, but these animal traders just gave us our in. Let's not waste our window of opportunity. The nomads push further in while we clean up the first wave. One of the things of real note is that Beep is starting to become quite the martial artist. Before, he'd end most fights on the ground. But check him out now. He's dodging a good number of strikes and isn't afraid to dish him out himself. Yep, it is time to update that chart. The sheer numbers that the Reapers are able to pour on us gives us some trouble. We take some decent hits during this bout. When all is said and done, all of our people are in one piece, and the nomads are mostly still standing. And we've got the local bandit boss in tow. One down. Since we took on this camp easy enough, I figure it's time we kick things up a notch and take on something a bit more challenging. To the north, on top of a solitary rise, is the hideout of the Black Dragon Ninjas. Most ninja-type factions in the game are dexterous but unarmored. They wield katanas and usually boast a higher melee attack stat. Their melee defense usually hovers in the mid-20s. This is a notable weakness of their fighters, but with the relatively high cut damage of their weapons and the bonus against humans, they pose a significant threat to unarmored characters. They represent a simple but effective combat challenge. They want to end the fight quickly, steal your shit, and then run away. It's too bad for them that we're starting to collect some formidable armor for our level. The tower itself has a fair number of crossbows mounted at the top, and that's bad news. Mounted weapons get a damage and range increase the greater the elevation they have over their target. We're going to have to blitz the door and take the fight inside. This is going to be a slugging match. Cross your fingers and hope that we've got the staying power to outlast our opponents. Beat plays his role as the vanguard well, using the confusion of his sudden entrance to get inside and set this bitch off right. That's That's a lot of red numbers. It looks bad for a while, but the ninjas aren't built for this kind of encounter. We swap Fumin's crossbow on and off when it's advantageous, like when there's a clean line of sight on tougher enemies. Before long, the only man left on his feet is Dimon, the Black Dragon faction leader. He joins his compatriots in taking their impromptu nap time, and the tower falls silent. Total time between Beep entering the tower and the last dragon calling it quits, almost 4 minutes exactly. It was a hard-won skirmish. Everyone took their lumps, but we came out mostly... Wow. We're hitting all the crowd pleasers, aren't we? For the uninitiated, Beep just got a secret thing added to his list of accolades. We'll reveal that trap card when it becomes relevant. Beep is officially our first character to lose a limb, and he's gonna need a replacement. Since it's his leg, he'll need to be carried out of here. We waste no time getting to the essentials. Strip the bodies, loot the booty, shoulder the bounties. Honestly, getting our asses kicked a healthy amount and still winning the encounter is sort of the ideal outcome. Kenshi really enforces this sort of sadomasochistic behavior via the stronger opponent logic system, where your rate of XP gain is increased against beefier enemies. In other RPGs, including some particular ones in my wheelhouse, you're sizing up fights and deciding if you can come out on the other side with acceptable losses. In Kenshi, you're doing the same thing, but you're also asking the question, how much will it hurt? And the answer you're looking for is just enough not to kill me, please and thank you. Fucking, you people like this stuff? You guys are freaks. There's no bounty to collect on the Black Dragon characters from the Shek, so Lip and Shrike hand in his stack and turn these yokels into the local Inquisitor, Seta. Lip collects his bounty just fine, albeit accompanied by a long-winded lecture about the evils of getting paid for your work.
What need is there for payment, when one has the wholesome duty of carrying out Akran's will? This greed is to be expected of outsiders, though. You have served well today, so I will compensate you for your expenses nonetheless. I suggest you reflect upon the Scripture of Radiance, Volume 5. Money, material goods, rewards, these earthly desires are nothing more than destructive. They deceive you of your true holy path. Do not lose your way.
Hey, pick a lane, asshole. Do you live in a society where you receive money for goods and services or not? You guys posted the bounty, not me. You gonna tell me how to wipe my ass next? Also, I'm pretty sure that you're misreading that text. Not a word in that fucking thing about money lending or greed, unless you're really bending the intentionality of the well-being of all mankind thing. Last time I checked, fair wages are not pleasures of the flesh. Now, Shrike, on the other hand, he won't even fucking speak to her. We have to hot swap the bounty over to Lip before he'll pay us. These fucking people. Whatever. We got our cats. We got what we came for. We do some light shopping in town and then hit the bar to see who's hanging out in there. This is where we meet Griffin.
I had a dream last night. The Lord of Light Akran himself came to me, and he told me that I would meet a wealthy wanderer from the outside.
Uh-huh.
The wealthy wanderer will lead me to the truth. Will lead me to the origin of the first extinction. With this, the lands of the Holy Nation will finally find peace.
Well, let's see what he knows. First extinction? What's that?
The destruction of the ancient capitals thousands of years past. According to the doctrine of the Holy Lord himself, it was the agents of... the skeletons that caused the extinction. And it will happen again. How and why, I don't know. But this very belief is what tears our society apart. It instills such an overwhelming fear and suspicion into our nation that we've begun to destroy our very own society by our own hands.
That's actually fairly coherent compared to what I've come to expect from the Luddites from this culture. A Holy Nation reformer, huh? You know, I love this type of character. Your gold masks, your arbiters. The religious person questioning the validity of their belief. Maybe finding some better moral code that still fits within the lens of their existing religious mindset. I'm not religious, but there's something very compelling about somebody believing so completely in something and then being forced to examine it with a fine-toothed comb. And you think that I will lead you to your salvation.
Akran will show me if you are the one. So, Wanderer, I will follow you.
Griffin is an ex-paladin. His combat skills are already up to snuff, so he doesn't really need much training. In my saves, Griffin is always styled as a knight, mostly wearing a great helm, regardless if it's the best in-slot item at the time or not. This is basically non-negotiable. When everyone is geared up and regrouped, we do a quick scouting run to check out the size of the Dust Raider force at the abandoned settlement. This is also Beep's real first opportunity to test out his brand new prosthetic. You know what's coming here. Beep likes his new skeleton lip. Beep feels stronger, faster. Beep's libs are clearly too easy to chop off, but that was the old, fleshy Beep. Now Cyber Beep fears neither man nor beast.
It's just a robot limb. It doesn't make you more powerful.
This is what the pinnacle of power feels like. Cyber Beep! Ugh. Okay, so when between being exiled by the Hive and picked up by us in Mongrel did Beep have time to watch a bunch of shonen anime? Because that's really the only explanation for this. The Dust Raiders aren't terrifyingly skilled melee combatants. We're about matched with them in head-to-head combat, but they've still got a significant numbers advantage on us. This sort of scenario really activates the part of my brain that LARPs is some kind of late Jurassic theropod. You know, is the energy expended worth the calories gained? That kind of thing. Well, this one's still not worth it. We'll have to circle back another day. God, I'm an apex predator. On the way back, we actually noticed that the old Dust Reaper fort isn't vacant like we expected. There's a fresh garrison of Dust Lords in there now. We've made a fairly crucial mistake. We've just made room for the Lords to expand by taking out some of their competition. Instead of simply clearing out a minor gang, we've just let another dickhead make the first step towards becoming the next Dust King. Shit, it's always something. After buying some food and a new sword for Griffin, we scoot on back to Mongrel to replenish our coffers and train up some more.
Don't be mollycoddling me, Chumbo. I'm stronger than you'll ever know. I was fighting ninjas while you're still suckling in your mother's womb.
I don't even know what to say to that.
Yeah, the thing is, he wasn't in a womb at any point, Crumblejohn. Lock it in a little, man. Gee, our crew is really vocal today. This is a talky episode. In town, we offload a couple prince heads that we picked up on the way over and get ready to get involved outside the gate. Without the safety net of the guards being knee-deep in the fight, I figure that it's a good idea to bring on some hired swords. As long as we pull at least one head in this fight, they've basically paid for themselves. We play it safe and extract when the first couple people start going down. I did end up leaving the mercs behind, but frankly that was always a possibility. The common wisdom is that you don't have to pay dead mercenaries, but these guys wanted their cash up front, so what can you do? Ridley becomes our second amputee character and ends up needing a new limb. This probably says something about the average state of our leg armor. We end up with enough dosh to get Beep his stealth leg and have more than enough to spare to shell out $10K for the Shinobi Thieves membership. This is super useful. The Thieves have hideouts in most major towns with free beds to heal, a merchant that sells gear at a discounted rate and buys illegal goods, a surgeon to change the look of your characters, low-level thief training stations. Yeah, 75 days into the run and we're just now grabbing that. Considering this is something that veteran Kenshi players do basically as soon as they can, I'd say that we're behind the curve. Better late than never. When we're all healed up and ready for some action, I send Fumin out to see how the mercs fared. Bad. They were doing bad. He sprints back when some locals take note of our presence. And in this active retreat, we managed to kickstart the fight like pulling the cord on an old lawnmower. Oh fuck. This is a clear barometer for our progress since we hold our own much better than our last significant fight in this same scenario. Our crew weed-wax fogmen like they're landscapers, and my eyes are trained to detect yellow prince blood so well you'd think I were a fucking Capcom dev. We even have time to untie some mercs. You're welcome. After another power nap, we sneak back out at night to squeeze some more blood from this stone. When the dust settles, we've collected a total of 11 heads. That's 66,000 cats at a minimum, and 99,000 at a maximum if you run them to the United Cities. So now the question is, how do we spend all this loose change?
Upon this rock, I will build my church.
Today we're prospecting. On this trip, we really only need to move light and fast. Peep loads up his pack with some snacks for the road. Let's go on a little sightseeing trip, shall we? There's a couple locations I think we need to check out. Dreg. I did find it fairly quiet and cozy out here. A lot of Kenshi zones are designed in a way that forces you to consider the challenges of the area before you can successfully settle there. Acid rain, poor fertility, established factions knocking on your door. These are tools that serve not only a mechanical purpose, but also a storytelling one. They're not just taxes, it's flavor. Unfortunately for us, the fertility here is just plain terrible. Nothing would grow in this soil, and food is the lifeblood of any good settlement. It's probably for balance reasons, given this place is outside the reach of any major faction, and is devoid of any real challenges or threats. That's a shame. What are these fuckers even gathering out here, rocks? Off further west, there's a thin strip of land slightly off the coast. It takes us the better part of 3 hours to cross the channel. Fuck, this is kinda scary. That inky black water. Ugh. This is Raptor Island. It's solely populated by its namesake, including a fairly nasty mega raptor in this destroyed structure. I know this is a popular base location, but the swim in the distance from the civilized areas of the map is just too much of a trade-off for me. Maybe next playthrough. We're winding our way through the Fog Islands on our way back east and dodging fogmen patrols along the route. My prospecting brain is still online, so I actually start to think basing in this soup wouldn't be so bad. Green and arid fertility in equal measures, good resource deposits, plenty of mob enemies to train on, plus the easy access to fog princes for extra cats, outside the coverage of any major faction's borders, shit! I kinda love it. I scout out a couple popular locations, including this mega base location. Conventional wisdom would be to settle on one of these high ground spots, but I actually think I like some of these low ground bowls better. I eventually stumble across this location. It's not far from Mongrel and only has 2 entrances on either side. With a couple of good walls, we can seal off this basin and turn it into a fortress. In hindsight, this spot is smack dab on one of Kenshi's many roads, which are like invisible AI pathfinding super guidelines. Veteran players know that putting walls up over one of these always leads to some quirky behavior from roaming squads and base raids. I wasn't aware of that at the time, so we'll be seeing some of the consequences of this decision much later. Just a word of warning for anyone who wasn't aware of that. The next couple days are spent accruing building materials. Wheat and green fruits for starting our own fields, iron plates, copper, and electrical components for our tech needs. I go so far as to buy a second bull to carry another inventory full of supplies. I, again in hindsight, buy a domesticated variant, which is just worse in every way, because it'll never get as fast as Lady or reach the same damage ceiling, but the silver lining is that I also won't notice for hours of gameplay, so, that's good. We clear everything worth bringing out of storage in the hub. Food, spare animal skins and leather, loose prince heads. When we're all loaded up, we slowly Oregon Trail our asses to our new home. In typical road trip fashion, I make a pit stop at a high village to grab some snacks. You could call holding on to this much food overkill, but I'd rather be looking at it than looking for it. Muffintop's dad's Proverbs of Wisdom, number 106. First order of business, shit out everything onto the ground into a pile for our engineers to pull from. Luxuries like organized storage come later. Our priorities are food, walls, and a starter house for cooking. We have to fend off the occasional fogman assault, but before long the place is sealed off and we're free to work without interruption. When we're running out of something essential, someone runs to Mongrel to resupply. Base building can take a while. Kenshi really becomes a totally different game at this point. In remote areas with relatively few threats, it can be, dare I say it, downright peaceful. In the space of just an hour, we've gone from nothing to something with real potential. There are some qualifiers to this statement, but for the most part, Kenshi is my perfect game. Let me explain. For years, going all the way back to when I was a teenager, I had a very specific problem with my rotation of games. I have a prolonged love affair with 2 genres, RTSs and city builders. StarCraft 2, Age of Empires and Mythology, Company of Heroes 2, Banished, Cities Skylines, Songs of Six. If you zoom in on that last one, you'll see I have my I played this game before Seth's video about it badge. Now, I don't have that one for Kenshi, but I would often bounce back and forth between all these games fairly consistently, but my frustrations would mount until I synthesized what the problem was. I'd be playing StarCraft 2, Wings of Liberty, Hell It's About Time, and think this is all well and good, but I wish these matches lasted a bit longer. Or, I like the challenge, but I wish I had the room to personalize my base a bit more. Make it really my own, instead of just shoving a building down as fast as humanly possible to keep pace with the flow of the match. Silly things to think about StarCraft of all things, I know, but a sincere feeling nonetheless. Then, to get my fix, I'd swap over to Banished. I'd really take my time handcrafting my beautiful little settlement, carefully managing my production chains, and making sure we never ran into any shortages. But again, the little voice worms its way into my head. I wish all of this work could be driven toward a goal, not just a personal challenge or disaster scenario to overcome. I'd love to focus the might of my industry against something tangible, like an enemy to fight. I like my little settlement, but earthquakes or the occasional fire feels too random and unsatisfying. It's more like I'm playing whack-a-mole rather than dealing with threats against the well-being of my community. Enter Kenshi. For me, this game isn't just good. It's filling a hole that I've been trying to fill for the better part of a decade. I remember seeing a Reddit comment where someone said that Kenshi is an unbelievable thing. It's too feature-rich. It's a game that shouldn't exist. All this just to explain why I spend so much time just chilling at my base. It's a leisure activity. I'm honestly playing a whole different game right now. This type of thing is dangerous. Games like this are life destroyers. Who needs to maintain a regular sleep schedule or do chores? I'm on the F12 menu right now, nudging points to perfectly place my walls. By the second play session at home, we've got power and refineries up and running. We're sort of a satellite town to Mongol, so I christen our settlement Mutt. Occasionally, we raid a death yard to free anyone tied up there for free recruits, and relations with Holy Nation outlaws who frequent the area. At least once, we run into a lost drone who I cannot for the life of me ever say no to. Listen, they're like lost children, you know? Not equipped to understand anything outside of their very strict upbringing. The dialogue always makes them out so vulnerable and helpless, which is probably why they make up 99% of the underclass of the United Cities. That's a fatherly impulse, right? Yeah, you know, looking after your community. That's manly. I'm not going soft here. I just, Look, I'm calling this little guy Pierre, okay? On day 92, I make good on my promise and trek back to the Dead Cat fishing village to pick up Greenfinger. Sorry it took so long, pal. You're hired. On day 93, we sally out in full force. I leave a skeleton crew behind at Mutt and march back to the border zone. You see, there's a difference between us and the Dust Bandits. The common aphorism is that wars aren't won by soldiers, but by logistics. The Dust Bandits are consumers. They have no industry, no means of production, no line of supply to keep them fed and equipped. Now, we do. With a fire in his eye and with a real war party at his back, Lip is ready to raise some hell. We augment our outfit with an auxiliary party of mercenaries and return to the Dust King's tower. It's got a nice new coat of Kaizo paint, but we've sieged this place before. The gate swings open and we hit the place hard and fast. Fuman and his protege Borland take the high ground to saturate the fight with covering fire. We ruthlessly cut down anybody who gets in our way. We grab the local leader, and as if to really salt the wound, a party of slavers who arrive during the fight start shackling anybody who's still unconscious. The party cages Drek, sleeps off some minor bruises, and marches for the camp at the ruined village. We walk into the place under a hail of crossbow bolts. Before long, we're inside their cozy little buildings and cutting down dust raiders where they sleep. The next day, we stroll into the Dust Lord garrison at the fort and repeat the process all over again. In the space of 2 days, we effectively bring the Dust War to a swift and decisive close. To recap the world state changes introduced by Kaizo, they go as follows. The Dust King's tower, old fort, and village are never rebuilt. The Holy Nation outlaws can now freely use the ruins as temporary shelter. It's a good deal better than slumming it in the elements. With the Black Dragons out of the equation, their towers, claimed by the Shinobi Thieves, are new allies and trading partners. Anyone who is evicted from their spot in the war will see their squads replaced with malnourished and less numerous variants. Any of the new residents will start spawning roaming parties in this region. This effectively means that the border zone is now considerably less dangerous to traverse. We've cleared our main route to Smuggler's Bar and made our pearlware trading runs safer, at least for the first leg of the journey. In total, it's been 48 days since the Dust King died and the war began. And now, it's over. Some of you out there might read this as an anticlimax. Is this story really compelling when we can just walk into our enemies' houses and mow them down like wheat? Well, yeah. Consider that there are no easy fights in Kenshi. Only fights that you were prepared for. All of our losses, all of our ass beatings and close calls. The fogmen, beak things, the highwaymen on the roads we've walked. The Dust War and the skirmishes and circumstances surrounding it were effectively the final bricks in the wall. A last test. The crucible that forged our characters from iron into honed steel. We didn't just breeze past the targets of our old grudges. We've outgrown them. The bandit leaders of the Dust Bandit remnants are left in their cages, outside, exposed to the elements, hungry and thirsty. They played the game, and they lost. We return to our new home, muscles aching but victorious, and day 100 passes in pure domestic bliss. A special thanks goes out to our generous supporters on the Patreon. Thank you to Thomas Bomber, Empire Doom, Interesting Squirrel, Galbatrix, Original Peter, Trench Gun, Eggs and Toast, Ethan, Jesse Watson, Victor Sales. Hey, Victor, reach out to me on the Patreon if I'm mispronouncing your name. Alfarius Omegon, Joseph McClelland, Teeth, Kaylee, Seamus Folan. Sorry I forgot to read your name last time. Will132, Sock, Biosphere, Deeger, sorry I've been mispronouncing your name this whole time, T-Dog America, Lawnmower, Gotcha Hell, Rail Foamer, Lewis, Silent Rainfall, Syndicated Man, and Maxi. So that's it for this little foray into Kenshi. Here's our updated travel map. We really didn't go too far, but yeah, we were dealing with some domestic threats this time around. I think the Fog Islands might be one of my favorite places in the whole game to settle. It's just too viable, you know? Nice and close to the center of the map for ease of travel purposes. Fog Prince headhunting. God, it's so good. If you missed it earlier, there's now a Discord for the $3 patrons. I'm doing things over there like regular streams, maybe once or twice a month. I think in future, if we can get enough people to hang around and come to a community consensus about whatever game, the games that people own, we can try and do game nights. I think that might be fun. Right now, people are trading baking tips in there, which I I didn't expect, but it's very welcome. Just to date this little portion of the video. If that sounds like your cup of tea, check it out. In other news, I recently lent my voice and a little bit of my 2 cents over to fellow Kenshi YouTuber Hero in His Head. He did a nice little what-if scenario about the Shek and the Holy Nation, which I thought was a fun little thought experiment. The dynamics of that scenario were super fun to look into, and I had a good time. So if you haven't seen that yet, I'll link it somewhere. Be sure to check it out. Thanks for stopping by. More junk soon. Bye-bye.